This is my new book, which I'm really happy about to have it come out. I really like the cover. They did this lovely cover. Isn't that pretty? It's trees and then, and basically I'm still writing about death. My father's death is at the center, and I shouldn't laugh, but of the true, which thank you, Avery, for bringing that book's presence here. And this one is responds to the death of my mother and father, my dad's death in the first book, and then this one probably more about my mother, and more, I think, more abstracting the concept of death and how nature has expanded for me, amplified for me, since I have been processing my experience of their deaths. And that work has remained a struggle, and that struggle has come forward and made this book, which Tupelo brought out, and it won the Dorset Prize, and so that's a lot of fun for me, that death could play so well in this culture. I think that the sort of the energy behind this book remains trying to push the sentence beyond its first order of layering. And I've been reading Michel Serres. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. We can play that. I don't know how to pronounce things. Michel Serres for a long time in translation. And there's a line of his that seems to really goes to my process, which is, every form is draped in an infinity of adherences. And that idea really helped me continue to try to push past sort of the first order of language to sort of sense deeper into, peeling off the layers of what the meaning might be of death, which seems like a good process to sort of work the energy. So I'm just going to read some of the poems that are more bringing nature forward, maybe not taking a less subtle hand or a less subtle sensory approach to the deaths. Many of the cycles have forms, but you won't probably be able to hear the structure of those in the reading. Many of the titles repeat through the book. So I'll start with one of the poems titled After Urgency. My mother died last autumn. My father in April the previous year. My dead, I've begun to call them, though the words leave me only more solitary in my dormitory of day walking, as I watch the shadow-riding fog drown the valley. I hear the wren's call traveling down its instinct ridge, which is too quickly narrow for my ear to follow, though I'm seeing the grass shift, as if with an aroused sentience. A little anarchy, as an ant, sudden along my forearm, opens a fault line between its existence and mine. To move a figure of thought out beyond my own senses and then bring it back in again is to observe only my own pulse. Yet I can use this activity as a measure of the agility, if not the accuracy, with which I observe the living and the dead. Fielding particulars. The cool taste of pottery in certain densities of morning fog. It tastes the way waking is always a self-correction. Squeak, squeak. No message in a tree, no tree in a message. Released from the guilt of order and arrangement, a purr of an apple picked at arm's reach. Aftermath. I fit an elm tree like a lens into the sight line between myself and my mother's death. I ask the willow's gray hatch of lineation to hold the confounding motion of death's branches. To learn mediation, I study fallen twigs and leaves that turn open their shadow. Even the pine tree that began as a volunteer in my mother's front yard now overtakes the entire view from her picture window. Trees threshold upward, a most difficult work. But I fill cardboard boxes with my mother's things, which are almost porous to time's passage through this nearly emptied house. I stop several times. It is a form of branching, which is also a form of being severed. Commonplace. Fixing its stare on my stare, a rabbit's stillness, is a counter-signature to a contract that I hadn't realized I've already signed. A childlike willingness today was, only yesterday, an embryo in the womb of my resistance. Thriving as fog thrives in air, diffusely, this will be my model for every pact I make with emptiness. A wrist of the stratocumulus cloud lies slack against blue sky. The bone of it has been stolen by wind to nourish the wildflowers at my feet. After urgency. The anxiousness in my fixing on thing after thing becomes again apparent, as though it would fall to me to keep the world substantive, and by sighting upon it, hydrated. I watch the meadow poppies, their petals cup with evening's cold, and fill with the rising of dusk, a material dense with all the immateriality that purpose can never find. I understand this only by posing as a sentinel in an order that I don't yet recognize, as a passenger still asleep to the gesture I am traveling to become. Wind isn't an edge, but it might become a mode of sharpening. Fielding particulars. The taller larch trees are stalwart on the hill's slope. They are an antidote to useless embellishment. Evening is stoking its grass chimneys. This walking I do on and then off the path, it is a kind of governance. This breeze is a passenger riding my walker's vigor. There is no bird song tonight, but crickets scratch against sunset's bronze. There is afterwards, and all its dark medallions. So I brought a couple of new poems about my using acupuncture to try to heal my chronic illness. So Carol has some affinities with acupuncture, so these are for both you guys. So you can tell how I deal with titles. I get a title, and then that sort of is the title for the next 2,000 poems. So these are both titled Witness, not Witness, but I hope you get sort of a energy twang there. Witness. Page's too small. And I'll just say that I've been working now with speaking from the she rather than the I, because I think these are so intimate, because I stick a needle in my body and then work with the meditative process. And so somehow I needed to use the she to sort of step beside that, to do the work. Witness. Most of her silences draw their strength from her body as an insect draws motion into its wings from the muscles of an armored thorax. Wings, the delicate membrane between air and earth-boundedness. Her other silences are rapid and reckless as a downpour hitting a pond, or involuntary as skin breaking out in sweat. Most of the meaning she makes of silence only wanders deeper into itself, the way envelopes that stay sealed for a year or more thicken into history, heedless of content. Other meanings become a sun sinking into grass, which is no longer sun or grass, but a day hearing itself depart. She is making a series of puncture wounds in herself as sound, using the acupuncture needles that are the thinnest of listeners, narrower than a beetle's wing skid. Skin has been her first visitation. Not pain as the needle enters her skin, but a raggedness learning itself. A quiet, enough to separate from the walls of sound that once held it. How to go farther is a question which will do an injury to that quiet. And then a really short witness. This one I keep. It's got pencil, but witness. Injury begins as impatience. Most of the swelling comes of walking without her body waking into the individual personage of each action. Its line of kin derived from and deriving a body's identity. A surface skin will swell with its own lack of recognition and be hot to the touch. The long hair of wind's accidents are ungainly and yet fierce with their order of completeness, not hers. Pulling the needle out too quickly, she has consigned herself to the next day. Invite the effect. The acupuncture needle yellowing the bruise the way a winter squash fills her mouth with a soft, earthen weight. Thank you.